Here we go.
Yes, we are live. Man, I am excited about part three of this conversation. This has been so far my favorite list of our conversations, the Chaos to Calm series, Candid Conversations with Candace and Siobhan. And sex, let's talk about sex. Actually, let me just tell you this. Let's talk about sex,
Baby, let's talk about you and me. That's so funny. I was like, I wanted to bring up the song and I totally forgot. Thank
Well,
you.
I figured we could not try to sing it together this time, since apparently you and I will never be singers, or like, I don't
Wait
know.
a minute. I'm a good singer.
I am
Okay,
not.
maybe not. In the shower, in the car, by myself.
Yeah, I'm like a howl with the dogs kind of singer myself.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, so there we go. Finally worked. We nailed all of the things. It only took us like 3 attempts, but Candid Conversations talking about sex. So this is exciting. So
Yeah, it
okay,
is.
we talked about our past sexual
Yep.
experience, the present, and now we're talking future, how to make it
What's
better.
to come?
Yeah. So
I
what do
had
we
to
got?
chuckle at my description about we're bringing it to a head and seeing what's to come. And the funny thing is, I admitted that actually that wasn't a planned pun. It just, that's what I wrote, and I'm like, I'm hilarious. And I didn't
Did you
even mean it.
afterwards go, oh, and like laugh at your own jokes? Yeah.
Look at me with my dirty little mind.
So funny.
I also want to say that I pulled a card. Maybe I'll do it
Yeah.
right now
Yeah, start
because
there.
before all the people come in. But I pulled a card
Hi,
today for a
Connie.
different, huh?
Connie
You
said,
can see,
great to
oh,
see you both. I got the comments.
okay.
Okay. Tell
Oh,
us
I
the card.
can't see anything. Oh, I'm not in the comments. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Yes, sex. All right, so I pulled a card for a different reason, but I'm not willing to share why right now. Anyway, here it is, sorry. I pulled this card. It says, The Rose's Kiss. Now, the reason why I'm sharing it is because, listen, it's crazy. It says, joy, experiencing pleasure, deep satisfaction and enjoyment, desires acknowledged, 5 sensory reality. So basically what it's saying, listen, take a deep breath and center on the feeling of joy. Can you allow your senses to awaken and connect with your innate desire to experience all life has to offer? Pleasure is a part of life. Let yourself surrender to it today. Our modern times often present a false ideal of how we are meant to experience the world. Connections are lost and distorted by our over-reliance on technology. Just look around and see how few people actually maintain eye contact or engage in conversation. Instead of tapping away at a screen, pause and consider how you make more intimate contact. Connecting with nature, enjoying the sensual pleasures of sex, and or being aware of the sensations of taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound may be important right now. How do your sheets feel? Can you reach out and feel the heat and softness of your animal companion nestled beside you? Be present to another person, see them, and let yourself be seen. Your 5 senses are aching to be engaged right now. This is an invitation to get out of your head and into your body. You may be a spiritual, intelligent being, but right now, the emphasis should be on having a sensory experience. This is a sacred part of this gift of life. By being present to the sensual world, you invite an even deeper spiritual experience. I love it. I love it. So it's so interesting. So I was looking up how to have a great sex life because we're thinking about, so this is where we are, this is where we were, and now it's like, where do we want to go? So what do you recommend?
Oh, all
You
the
girl.
recommendations. Okay. Well,
Look at
I
her.
mean,
She's
I
like,
really
let
liked.
me tell you.
Let me tell
I
you,
have a
where do
long
we
list.
want to
Where's
start?
the
Yeah.
scroll of sex talk?
Oh, it is. The book is beside me. We'll open that later. But I liked, okay, so you said even in that card that you read about the sensations, and we talked
Yes.
a little bit about that earlier. So that's a really cool place to start. Do you want to start talking about even in relationships in terms of what we said about nonverbal communication and having a connection with your partner that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lead to having a sexual connection? Because that's one thing. I mean, number one, we talked about so much about communication and sexual communication and being able to, express those dirty little desires that you've got. And maybe you're just writing them down because first you can't verbalize it. You got to write them down. And you've got a list, and we can definitely have a peek at that. But because
A
communication
list of
first.
my dirty secret fantasies.
Well, I mean, maybe.
I know you meant my list of stuff.
But I mean, you could have both. But that non-sexual communication is so, so important. So touch for touch's sake, how many times are you lying beside your partner and you roll over and you can feel them kind of like rubbing up beside you and you're like, no, 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 it's time for sleep. It's not time for anything else. But it's like, why, if where's the time to cuddle that's just for the time to cuddle?
Yeah.
Where's the time for connection that's not leading to, okay, if you hug me, this means that you're just hugging me because you want to, not because you're hoping that if you hug me, it's going to lead to, something that's a little bit more intimate. So that's a huge problem at first, because then there's almost that distrust within the partnership, because you subconsciously then associate, okay, well, if this person tries to touch me, it means that it's leading to something sexual, as opposed to reconnecting for the sake of connection.
Now, I'm going to try to think like a man.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like a man because I'm thinking that we're talking about men as the ones who are now, it could be us, because sometimes maybe we are interested and the person, our partner, is like, man, I'm tired. Not man, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Girl, woman, love, I'm tired.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes maybe we're not thinking about sex as much, or we're not thinking about sex at the same time. And so it can be discouraging if our partner is feeling kind of like aroused or wants to get intimate and we're like, dude, I'm tired, or I'm cooking, or can you later? So I hear both sides. And what does that come back to, Siobhan, which we've talked about over and over and over again? The C word, communication. It's all about communication. And about being able to be vulnerable and speaking your truth. So I did find a list. So I Googled how to have a great sex life. I really, honestly, guys, I have to be honest. After these 2 conversations, I've learned so much about myself. And I guess I don't really think about it. Maybe you guys aren't thinking about it. I know Siobhan's thinking about it. No, just joking.
I am.
Oh my God. I know you're like, no, I am, for real. Like, I really want to talk about it. And I want to think about it. And I'm excited. Yeah. So, the thing is that even when you talk about writing down your fantasies, I'm like, when is the last time I thought about a fantasy? Maybe my fantasy would be someone coming over to do my lawn for me. Maybe it's, maybe I need to get out of that practical part of my head and get back into my sensual side. I think we get caught up in life and we forget that we are sensual, sexual beings still. It doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't end at 22. It doesn't end after children. It's like it continues on. Yeah. So one of the things that I found was to educate yourself. I said back in the day, like on our first session, I think, how the hell do you learn about sex anyways? Like, how do you find out about good sex? Well, according to the internet, there's tons of stuff out there. I didn't spend hours Googling it. I literally just looked up how to have great sex, but I did get intrigued and thought, I'm going to look at how I can find out more. What else did you find? Or did you want to say anything about educating yourself?
Yeah, well, again, in terms of education, there are so many forums. And I know that we talked a little bit about, even some of them, like, again, you don't have to you don't have to dive as far deep as, like the word BDSM, for example, gets a really bad rap because it seems really scary. But like I said, there's amazing resources, like fetlife.com, for example, is in a fantastic place for you to
distracted.
Oh no, yeah, distract me. I was like, is that us? For you to go, for example, if you're looking for resources for forums to look at information just to get an idea, because again, sometimes you might not have any idea of something that you might be interested in until suddenly you read about it and you're like, oh, that's interesting. That could be something that is something I'd like to explore. And again, it doesn't have to be like far end of the spectrum. It could be, vanilla is considered anything that's not out of the ordinary. It's not meant to be a derogatory, but in terms of the BDSM community, that's what vanilla is. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's more of a preference and the types of things that you're into. But like we said, in terms of communication, being able to write those things down, being able to, and then outside of the bedroom to have that conversation, to be like, this is maybe something, and again, non-judgmental and being completely open, because the last thing you want is for your partner to bring something up and you're like, what the fuck? Like, no. Like, that's not, nobody's needs get met that way. But having that communication, like, that's a really great first start. And so, like you said, getting educated for yourself is like, learn what you might be interested in. And maybe it's through looking at a different type of porn that you might be interested in looking at or watching. And again, I don't use porn as a baseline for normal real person sex, but maybe it strikes a chord with something that you're like, oh, I didn't realize that this might be something that is a fantasy of mine. Because a lot of times people
I was
say
going to say,
like,
especially for fantasies, like,
yeah, yeah. And fantasies
it's
and
just,
fantasy play
bring
can
out
be
the freaky
fun.
deaky and yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, fantasy can be something, and having that conversation with your partner, maybe it just means like you showing up in that slutty little costume, schoolgirl, teacher, whatever, or maybe it's something completely different. Like maybe you guys are really into the role play or pretending to be somebody else, or maybe it is a lot less than that. And but being able to have that communication with your partner, being able to say things honestly and openly about like maybe this is something we could explore. And then when we even talk about touch, like that whole nonverbal communication, one thing that is
Wait, before we go into
phenomenal.
touch, can I go
Yeah,
back to that? Okay.
yeah,
So sometimes if your partner were to suggest something and you're like, you have to really, so it's one thing to suggest something, but it's another thing to pick up on the cues of your partner and knowing your partner.
yeah,
And how you, like when you think about, I mean, there can be things that are absolutely unacceptable. There's hard lines, and
yeah.
you have to be. So if your partner's being vulnerable by saying, "I think I might want to try this," is it degrading to you? In a sense of, and I don't know what that fine line is. There's the fine line of, you know what,
It's fine line is
fucking bring
different for
it.
everybody. That's
Yeah,
the
but
thing.
it's not about. So then I said before, like if it makes you go like, what? Step
Mhm.
back and look at why are you not interested or why are you not curious?
Yeah.
It has to do with who your partner is with you. Do you talk? Are you open? Is it like, honey, I never knew? Or is it like, that is so not even cool? That's not, and because some people don't have a partner who is bringing up fun, freaky things because they're curious with their partner. Sometimes they're just thinking about themselves and they're not. So that, number one, going back to communication is huge. Now, you were talking about touch, and this is huge. So, what did you want to say about that? I didn't mean to interrupt you
No,
earlier.
no, no. I'm glad that we finished on that thought. But yeah, in terms of the touch, like not only, like we said, having touch that's not coming from a sexual place, but one thing that's a really great way to reconnect with your partner is when you eliminate one sense, for example. So blindfolding.
Oh,
Blindfolding
yeah, that's
is
so true.
fantastic. So this is one reason why I'm very pro doing the blindfold thing, is because it allows you to remove a little bit of your own inhibitions. So you, for example, as a female, maybe you can't be as vocal as you would be if you have your eyes open, or maybe if your partner is going down on you, it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and you feel like you can't fully express yourself. Taking away that sensation, not only is it going to bring more sensation to your vagina, to your clitoris, because you've eliminated the sensory. So it's allowing you to focus more on the physical sensations. So removing that sensation is fantastic. Or maybe having your self-restraint. So light ties. And again, it doesn't have to be ropes. It could be a tie. It could be like, there's so many different things you can do. But putting yourself in that type of a position of vulnerability allows you to actually fall into that role a little bit more, allows you to express yourself, because you're giving somebody else that control. And again, it again, lots of it comes down to your level of comfort, where your boundaries are. If you have any trauma surrounding this, you obviously have to know yourself as well. But taking away certain sensations allows you to fixate a little bit more on getting deeper into one sensation.
So, once again, if I'm going to, touch on imagining like a man, I don't know why I would love for men to be watching this because,
Yeah.
you know, I think this would be a great conversation from them
Yeah.
to tune into. But why not them wear the blindfold? Why not them be restrained?
You should
And
do both.
sometimes, exactly, I
Yeah.
know, but I don't know if people would think that way. It's not just,
Yeah.
and I think maybe to be in a position of more dominance. And, we're not talking about whips and chains unless, what is
Unless
that
that's what
like
you're
not a
into.
Rihanna song? Yeah, it's like, I just realized I was almost like quoting a Rihanna song, but I that's actually I like that song. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's about this talk is for men, women, no matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter because we
Yeah.
go back to self-love, we go back to communication and vulnerability with our partner. So here's a couple other things. Another thing is giving yourself some time and not necessarily scheduling things. Like I don't mean, oh, it's Tuesday, it's sex time, because that you just lose the spontaneity and the spark.
Mhm.
Going back to touch, though, Sean, sorry, I didn't mean to jump, but you mentioned touch before, and I never mentioned the other thing, it's also about, I had a suggestion. So if you are a horny person and you're like, I just want to have sex right now, and you go up to your partner and their partner's like, not right now. And then you're like, that's cool. I just wanted to be close to you. And if you can switch it and turn it to touch and intimacy, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if they're a man, woman, whatever, they'll be like, they will appreciate that you respected that at that moment you were not interested. I bet you any money the next time or the time after, if you can just touch without expectation, except for, I just want to, and that goes with life, give without expectation.
Yeah.
Give because you love your partner, and because giving them pleasure and joy fills your heart up. I have not experienced that in my freaking life, I don't think, for anything. And I'm like, yeah, I'm always the giver. But if so, I don't do the sad face. It's all coming. It's all coming. So what I want to say is that if you do just extend your love, extend your touch, just be gentle, be sweet. I'm telling you, the next time you do it, that partner, or maybe you don't even have to do it the next time, your partner's like, listen, let's get it on. And you're like, yes, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you just have patience, you don't act like a hurt puppy dog who's been, dejected and kicked in the side. Fuck up, man, and just, or woman, and, just be giving because you love your partner. It will change everything.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Maybe it won't.
Well, no, and that's the thing. And the thing is, do you want to hold on? Could we talk about okay, focusing on enjoying our own senses instead of worrying about how well we are pleasing? Yes, I find it hard. Well, see, and that
okay, wait. Did you read it out? Let's read the question out fully, because I'm reading with you. I'm going blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. So let's read it out so that people can hear.
Okay, so could we talk about focusing on enjoying our own senses instead of worrying about how well we are pleasing our partners? I find it hard to be mindful during sex. Yes, 100%. This is one reason why I do not like 69. I do not like it as a position because I'm like, I'm either giving or receiving.
So what is 69, Siobhan, for people who don't know? I'm sure you'll be glad to tell us.
Yeah. So when your partner is all up in your vagina at the same time that you're both giving each other oral pleasure. Yes. But it is a very difficult thing for me personally to be like, I'm either enjoying what you're doing or I'm focusing on what I'm doing here. I'm not good at the multitasking, so I can't do the both of the things. And I think it's really, really important that we are focusing on, and that's one thing why, Christina, if you haven't got into the blindfolding, it is a really great way to be able to focus on your own pleasure. And if you're not the type of woman, for example, and we're speaking from a woman's perspective, who gets off during sex, and a lot of women do not, a lot of women either need the oral stimulation or, a couple fingers, whatever it is that sort of gets your clit heightened in the sensation. It's something that you should be communicating with your partner because they might not know. If you're also, I know that I speak to a lot of people that I know, don't fake it. That one really, really sets the bad stage. If you've been faking it for years, it's time to just stop on that, because it's, you're only hurting yourself in the situation. But in terms of focusing on your own pleasure, which is very, very important, if before maybe you even go into the intercourse, you guys are focusing on making sure that you're getting taken care of. And if you can either have like something where you're both like mutually masturbating, so you're both getting yourselves off, but you're together, so you're enjoying that intimacy, or you're allowing him to come in and just focus on you first. Like I said, the blindfold is really great if you have a hard time like me getting out of your own head, or bringing in a bullet or a vibrator or something that you do get to focus on yourself without the expectation. Because 9 times out of 10, if we're talking heterosexual couples, that guy's getting off.
Yeah.
He's going to get off no matter what. But like, if I am making a reservation, I'm like, I'm coming. Like that's that's what I'm doing.
Can I add a thought to this though?
Yeah.
I think part of it, and I'm looking at these 2 comments, even this, I get joy from giving in every way of my life. Yeah. I'm going to call both of you out and say, I wonder how good you are at receiving and allowing yourself to not be a giver. How are you really able to just not give and just absolutely receive, and to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to allow yourself to be touched, and to allow yourself to not have to give anything in return, that you just have a sexual experience where it's all about you? Give me a break. I bet you both struggle with that. I'm calling you out on it. If I'm wrong, tell me.
No, huh? I do 100%. In my mind, I'm like, I'm there for show. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
there to like be the
Yeah.
person to make sure like everything is good for you, which is why I actually hate one night stands, because I'm like, I'm, going to make this amazing experience for you, and then I'm going to go, wow, that's great. I didn't really get off on that. That was fucking waste for me.
Hmm.
Thanks for the number, buddy. So yeah, 100%. Like it is like, it's wonderful to get off from that pleasure, and from, for me, I love it. Like when I know a guy's like loving the head that he's getting, I'm like, yeah, good for me. I'm excellent. No problem. I'll take the accolades. But at the same time, it's like, okay, let's not skip over, or not feeling bad if it's like, okay, I feel like he's been going down on me too long, and now I feel kind of awkward because like, does he
Yeah.
still want to do this, and he's been down there a while, maybe I'm not going to get off, so maybe we should just have sex because maybe this isn't going to happen.
Yes.
But
I was
so
going to say that. I bet you any money, Christina is in her head way too much, in
it's
her
hard not
own
to be.
head,
Yeah.
overthinking things. Yes. So it really starts out with some communication. It really is about you, because I just feel like pain, almost like a really not pain as in hurt, but this overwhelming emotional pain
Yep.
of I don't know how to let go. Like when I think about like, do you know how much I want someone to like stroke my arm and like, oh my God, just go gently across my breast. And then what, but if something that were to actually happen, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. It's so hard to be, because what it's doing is someone's paying attention to you without wanting anything in return. Someone wants to touch you, someone wants to make you feel good, someone wants to make you smile. And that is difficult. That's why I called on both of you. And I'm sure there's other people in here who are exactly the same. And Siobhan and I are both admitting that that's us at times. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
me, like all the time. I can't even imagine having a healthy sexual relationship, even though what I've had in my life has not been bad. I don't even know what the good is. And it made me think about like, I said to Siobhan, I said, I want intuitive sex. Okay, so I'm always like into my soul and that connection. Wendy, do you remember how I talked about hugs? Do you remember when I talked about hugging? And I'm like, when I hug you, I can feel it, which we don't do anymore, but about feeling that connection at our heart chakra. And it's like an ignition, this warmth, and I feel connection. Oh my God, can you imagine, any of you, how amazing that would feel when you join together or when you are touching and kissing and you feel that warmth? Oh my God, it makes me feel amazing just thinking about it.
Have
And
you
that's what I want.
explored
And I think that's what
tantra?
great sex can be.
Yeah. But everything you're
No, I
saying
don't know
sounds
anything.
like tantra. Like tantric sex is
But then
very,
it's about
very
having the
much.
partner who's willing to do that.
Yeah. So Heather just said, I just clicked
Oh,
in
I
and oh
just
my
love it.
God,
I
I
just
don't think it
clicked
was
in.
sex
I like
sex.
that.
I haven't. It said, yes. Oh,
Oh,
see,
yeah.
welcome,
You'll have to go
Heather.
back. If you haven't subscribed, yeah, I was going to say, if
Welcome,
you haven't
Heather.
subscribed to the YouTube channel, it's all there.
Mhm.
And you can watch all the videos. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was thinking is that, okay, so if you're married and you've been married for a while, or maybe not, maybe you haven't been married for a while,
Mhm.
and it's about maybe you might need some therapy. There are actually people who are sex therapists where it's all about sex. I mean, it's really not all about sex. They're going to uncover all that it is that's creating an unhappy or unsatisfying sex life. And so that's something to think about. I never did that. And I think a lot of times that one of the partners doesn't want to go there, because once again, to do that, you need to be vulnerable and open to sharing your feelings and open to being heard. And for some reason, when it comes to sex, and probably other things too, nobody wants to look like they're not doing the right thing.
Well, yeah. And again, the other problem is this is why communication is so important, because not only are you looking at the verbal and nonverbal communication. So for example, like if you have a partner who really likes to kiss your neck, the very likelihood is that they enjoy that same sensation for themselves.
Good
So being able,
point.
and so yeah, and so those are part of the nonverbal cues. Other things that are really good, again, like we talked about, having intimacy without leading to an orgasm. So like you said, you want
Yeah.
that whole body sensation. Have a night with your partner where you're like, this isn't about getting off. Well, the getting off part can be later, because sex can be amazing without an orgasm, but it's more about, okay, let's start the communication. So body mapping is fantastic. So body mapping is when you're actually with your partner, and maybe the blindfold thing will help you, because again, it'll allow you to focus in a little bit more. But body mapping means that you're letting your boyfriend, husband, partner, girlfriend, whoever you're having a sexual relationship with, touch you all over your body in a completely it's a sexual way, but all of it is about stimulation. You can bring in things to help with the touch as well. So maybe it's a feather. Feathers are amazing for touch, but maybe it's a feather. Maybe it's like grazing your nails. Maybe it's just like gently putting your fingertips, and you're doing that all over your body. So you're resisting the urge to have anything that leads to a sexual thing before then, but it's all about finding the spots in your body that maybe you didn't even realize were sensitive for you. So you're starting to bridge that communication with your partner in a sexual way, but it's a little bit nonverbal.
I've got a great suggestion. So I was a massage therapist. I never practiced, but I studied it. And sometimes people are super sensitive. So you do massage as well. You do Thai massage. And one of the things that we start off with is it's called effleurage when you did Swedish massage. So that's what I learned. And it's basically just a broad sweeping motion with a firmer touch, or even just to do this. So even on feet, right? People are like, oh, don't touch my feet, or even just letting go. So if you're like, hell no, not a feather, hell no, not fingertips, because just the thought of that light touch just makes y'all whatever. So if you start out with firmer or a broad, with firmer touch, that gets your skin ready. Look, I'm like, ooh, get your skin ready for the touch. And a feather might be a fantastic thing to use because it's not your partner's tickly touch. It's this feather. And so you can relax into the feather as touch. And I'm telling you, honestly, talking about this stuff gives me so many ideas. And that's another thing too. Look into different positions. Google sexual positions, and then make it silly. Make it you know what, hon, we got to try this one out. Wait a minute, what are they doing, right? And have a sense of humor about it. Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't worry about your body. Nobody is perfect. And even the people who have perfect bodies feel they know their imperfections. So let me just see here. Wow, I don't think we need that, but it is great to know if the need arises, there are options. Intimacy is not an issue because you started as friends with benefits long before we started a relationship. Perfect.
Yeah. But again, and we're talking about massage, having where you're just giving your partner a massage, for example, bringing in oil, like coconut oil is phenomenal as an oil to use in a bedroom sense, not only because it's better for you. Coconut oil is also an oil that's really great to use inside. If ever, just this is as a heads up, ladies, if you ever have a yeast infection or something, you can put coconut oil on a tampon, put it up in there. If you got an STI or a UTI, coconut oil is great for that because it's antibacterial, antiseptic, antiviral. So it's a great oil to use as a base oil. If you want to do a couples massage, or you just want to, introduce that in place of lube, for example, and you want to do the all over. I'm a big fan of putting oil on my body and literally rubbing my body on a person, because it's fun. Guys like boobs, and I'm a heterosexual female, so those things work for me. But the oils, doing a sensual massage on your partner, and again, not necessarily leading to an orgasm, but just rediscovering that connection with your partner outside of a sexual context, which will then help to get you more in the mood to do those things more often.
You could even think about looking up essential oils. That'd be nice to add. That would be, that kind of adds some sensuality. There's lots of different scents. I like this stuff about role playing, laughing. Maybe you're not good actors. And you know what? Sometimes it's just if you're trying to have a sexual role play and you end up laughing, you're having a good time. In the end, I think that it's about taking that time. However, if you have kids, okay, so I've got many of them. I've got 3, and 2 of them are grown. I can't imagine, trying to have, and maybe this was part of what was wrong in the marriage, is that there wasn't a lot of time. There wasn't a lot of privacy. So, and I think that's why going back to intimacy is more than just intercourse. It is touching and loving and kissing and treating each other wonderfully. And then you will find the time. You will find the time and you will enjoy it. So it's remembering each other, because I always say to people that, so I am number one, Siobhan is number one in her life. You're all number one in your own life. And that's why we start out with self-love and self-touch and whatever. And then it's your partner. It's not your children. It's, in my opinion, you can disagree, that's fine. But then it's your partner, because after your kids grow up and leave, you're together, or hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's about maintaining that relationship, and our sexual relationship is part of it. And you want to be able to communicate. And then it's everybody else, right? Kids and family and whatever.
And I was going to say, I know that you said having the spontaneity of not planning it, but as somebody who has children, I do not.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is important if you're setting aside that time to be intimate. What I'm about to say is vulgar, but I have a friend whose every Friday is steak and pussy night. And that is the night of the week
The Friday
that,
fuck.
yeah, the Friday fuck. But it's a steak. So she cooks them like a dinner. She likes to get cute, fun outfits, and they have sex. And
Yeah.
it's not spontaneous, but they make time. And then on a different time, it's an intimate date where it's more catered to something that maybe like fills her cup up because maybe she needs to get fucked in the mind before anywhere else. So it's again having that communication with your partner. Like, what are your needs? Like, what are your expectations? Because a lot of times we don't even talk about what are our sexual expectations. You want to have sex 5 times a week? Not realistic for me. But instead of like deviating, I know women who are like, oh, I just had a headache. Haha, had a headache. It's like, no, like don't separate yourself, because intimacy, like you said, is not just sex, but intimacy is so paramount to having a longevity in your relationship. Like, I want to wake up beside my partner and be like, this is my best friend. This is also the person I want to have sex with forever. And sex will get mundane and boring if you've been having sex with the same person for so long. But there's so many resources, like you said, where you can get onto forums and be like, what are other things that we can do that it's not just the same wham, bam, thank you, ma'am that we've been doing for the past 15 years. There are ways to sort of think outside the box, and you have the opportunity to get creative and make it fun. So you can sort of invigorate that sex life again.
Yeah. So I'm curious about, in the end, you can leave in the comments after, what are your takeaways from the 3 sessions we've talked about as we've delved into sex? And I'm also wondering, we won't do it next week. We'll have a new topic next week. I hope that you join us at 7 next Wednesday. Yeah. But I'm wondering, what other topics about sex is there to talk about? If we should bring this back another time. So remember, you can follow us on Facebook, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Siobhan posts the video shortly to the YouTube link, so you can check that out. And but yeah, keep us posted on what you want to hear next in our Candid Conversations every Wednesday at 7. And I guess on that note, are we good to go, Siobhan?
That's it. I guess that's
all right.
That's all. All right.
Awesome. We look forward to hearing you guys.
Next week,
from you guys, not hearing you, hearing from you. Bye.
Bye.